Welcome to the Wrestling Stable podcast, where you don't join, you're chosen. I am your host, Will Williams. Please follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Stable or visit us at WrestlingStable.com for the latest news, updates, and reviews. Today we're going over NWA Power Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. We start off with Episode 1. This is off of the heels of the Into the Fire event, main evented by Nick Aldis successfully defending the World's Heavyweight Championship in a 2 out of 3 falls match against the Cowboy, James Storm. After that match, we saw the return to the NWA of the hottest free agent on the market, the villain, Marty Scurll. Joe Galli kicks off the show by announcing that Stu Bennett, who joined him at Into the Fire, will also join him on commentary for this season of Power. Next, we have an interview. David Marquez is joined by Aaron Stevens and the question mark. Stevens talks about how he is a third-degree black belt in Mongrovian karate. Question mark continues to be massively over due to his mastery of karate. Stevens says that he is not the NWA national champion, but the first ever third-degree NWA national champion. Also to refer to him as Shooter Stevens. Then he goes off on using the word belts, which is a word that reports have always mentioned that Vince McMahon does not like due to thinking that titles are championships and belts hold up your pants. Colt Cabana comes out to talk about how without question mark, Stevens would never be a champion. Question mark and Aaron Stevens walk to the back and Thunder Rosa is standing at the curtain, who stares them down and then walks to the ring. In Spanish, she tells the crowd to rise to their feet as Melina comes down. Ashley Box comes out of nowhere to attack Thunder Rosa. At Into the Fire, Ashley Box was supposed to join Allison Kay in tag team action against Melina and Marty Bell, but she was put in an arm breaker earlier in the night by Thunder Rosa and had to be replaced. Her replacement for the match at Into the Fire, ODB, along with Allison Kay, come out here to ringside to stop Melina and Thunder Rosa from damaging Ashley's arm further when Thunder sets up to jump off of the top rope onto Ashley's arm that is being held down by Melina against the metal steel steps. In the back, Melina finds Marty Bell and asks her where she was when Allison and ODB came out to attack them. Then she asks why she couldn't be more like Thunder Rosa. Stu Bennett announces that a new World's Television Champion will be crowned at the next pay-per-view and that each match in the tournament will have a time limit of 6 minutes and 5 seconds in line with their vintage start time of 6:05. If no one wins in that time of 6 minutes and 5 seconds, then every man in the match is eliminated from the tournament. Then we switch to an NWA World's Television Championship Tournament qualifier. We have a triple threat match between Sal Rinauro versus CW Anderson versus Zicky Dice. The outcome is Zicky Dice hits the snake, rattle, and roll neckbreaker on Sal for the 1, 2, 3. Your winner, Zicky Dice. Next, we have an interview with David Marquez, who is joined by Zicky Dice, who has a lot of energy, but still not feeling him on these promos. The Dawsons then come out and say that they are out to expose some truth and that James Storm was right about the conspiracy. They said they did all the dirty work for the Wild Cards. The Wild Cards come out with chairs and chase away the Dawsons. Next, they show a video from after Into the Fire of an interview between David Marquez and the villain, Marty Scurll. He reminds the people that he started in the business with Nick Aldis and Stu Bennett, and that he did wrestle Nick Aldis at the Crockett Cup, and that even though he came up short, he knows that deep down in his heart, he could still beat Nick. He says that it is a shame that after everything that he has achieved, he has not become World Heavyweight Champion. He asks Nick Aldis for a shot at the World Championship. Eddie Kingston comes out and joins Stu and Joe on commentary. Next, we have a non-title tag team match between Rock and Roll Express, the 9-time and current NWA tag team champions, versus Zach Mosley and Sean Sims. The outcome is Rock and Roll up both of their opponents for the 1, 2, 3. Your winners, Rock and Roll Express. Next, we have an interview where David Marquez is joined by the Rock and Roll Express. Ricky reminds the people that they are 9-time tag team champions. It says that Nick Aldis cannot be compared to Harley Race or Ric Flair, and then they walk away. Then the Dawsons come out again, and then Wild Cards come out again as the Dawsons and the Wild Cards brawl into commercial. This action is spilled over into the ring for our next tag team match, the Wild Cards versus the Dawsons. Outcome is the Wild Cards hit the DVD powerbomb on Zane Dawson for the 1, 2, 3. Winner, Wild Cards. Next, David Marquez is joined by the Wild Cards. Thomas Lattimore calls the Dawsons liars, and Lattimore also says that Santa is a liar as Josephus Claus comes out giving goodies to the audience. Next, they show a video from after Into the Fire of the interview with James Storm. James says that Nick is going to keep messing around and turn him back into the old him. Next, we have an interview where David Marquez is joined by Zicky Dice. He then introduces the other participants in the NWA World's Television Championship Tournament. Ricky Starks, Caleb Conley, Colt Boom Boom Cabana, Trevor Murdoch, Thomas Lattimore, The Question Mark, Eddie Kingston, Tim Storm, both of the Dawsons, and the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, Nick Aldis. David then introduces the Russian Nightmare, Nikita Koloff. Nikita draws out the first two participants, Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston. Then the second match, Colt Boom Boom Cabana versus The Question Mark. These matches start next week. Then Nick Aldis and Ricky Starks stay behind to talk to David Marquez. Aldis says that he has run through and ridiculed everyone on the roster and that he has no challengers left. He wants to be the first man in history to hold the NWA World's and Television Championship at the same time. Nick says that Ricky Starks might have a shot to make it to the finals to lose to him for the Television Championship. David asks Nick about Marty. Nick says that he is sick and tired of guys coming out of the woodworks trying to make a name for themselves. Nick says that whatever Ricky Morton said earlier at the interview desk, that he is sure that it was very complimentary. He also says that he needs to assemble a real team and that Camille is no longer his insurance policy. Then we see a clip of the villain, Marty Scurll, being interviewed earlier in the day by Stu Bennett. The villain says he has never been world champion and cannot think of a better place to come to and become real world's heavyweight champion. Back in the arena, Tim Storm joins Joe and Stu on commentary. Eli Drake comes out for an interview with David Marquez. Eli sells the incident at Into the Fire where Ken Anderson had a chair over Eli's head and rammed it into the turnbuckle, crushing his larynx. Eli does this promo in a nice, raspy voice. Eli says that it's funny that he is not in the TV championship tournament. Eli says that even after everything Anderson did to him, he is still standing. Next, we have a no disqualification match between Eli Drake and Ken Anderson. The outcome is Anderson goes for the mic check onto the chair, but Eli blocks it and hits the drop toe hold on Anderson into the chair. Eli thinks about hitting Anderson with the steel chair, but stops himself. He instead hits Anderson with the gravy train for the 1, 2, 3. Your winner, Eli Drake. After this match, Nick Aldis comes out to confront Tim Storm. Nick did not like some of Tim's comments from earlier while he was on commentary. Nick and Tim head into the ring. Nick begins to take off his tie as the Wild Cards come into the ring to attack Tim Storm. Camille comes out and lightly pie faces Lattimore and gets into the face of Nick Aldis for a few moments. Then she turns around and spears Tim Storm. Then she begins making out with Thomas Lattimore. Lattimore, Isaacs, Camille, and Aldis stand tall as the show goes off the air. Now we transition to episode 2. Joe Galli and Stu Bennett are on commentary. David Marquez is joined by Trevor Murdoch and Zicky Dice. Trevor lets the people know that today he got a contract with the NWA. Zicky and Trevor go back and forth on the mic as the Pope makes his debut and comes out to the interview stand. Pope says he is here looking for his superpowers and looking for his horsemen. Next, we have an NWA World's Television Championship Tournament singles match with a 6-minute, 5-second time limit. Eddie Kingston versus Ricky Starks. Outcome, Ricky Starks hits the Buster Keaton for the 1, 2, 3. Your winner, Ricky Starks. Next, we have an interview where David Marquez is joined by Royce Isaacs and the newest member of the NWA, Mae Valentine. Royce says he wants to show his girl what he can do as a singles competitor. James Storms comes out and accepts that challenge. So we have a singles match between Royce Isaacs versus the Cowboy, James Storm. Outcome, James Storms goes for the last call super kick, but Royce leaves the ring and gets counted out. Your winner, James Storm. Next, we have an interview with David Marquez, who is joined by Eli Drake. Eli comes out. His voice is much better this week, and he has some champagne and might actually be drunk. He steps away from the interview desk towards Josephus Claus and Mrs. Claus, who are singing, "Oh, come let us adore him." Then Aldous, Camille, and the Wild Cards come out to interrupt and join David. Aldous gives personalized jackets or sweaters to the other three members of his alliance. About Ricky Morton, Aldous says that the only reason anyone is in that building is because of him. He invites the Rock and Roll Express to come out. Nick asks Ricky to clarify his comments from last week. Ricky apologizes, but Nick says that he should be very careful before he opens his mouth again. Next, we have a 6-woman tag team match where the winning team member gets to pick someone from the other team to have a one-on-one match with. So we see Melina and Thunder Rosa and Marty Bell versus Allison Kay, the NWA Women's World Champion, and ODB and Ashley Vox. Outcome, Thunder Rosa hits the shoulder breaker on Ashley Vox for the 1, 2, 3. Your winners, Melina, Thunder Rosa, and Marty Bell. So next we have an interview where David Marquez is joined by the winners, Melina, Thunder Rosa, and Marty Bell. Thunder Rosa goes to announce who she wants a one-on-one match with since she won the fall of the match. But Melina cuts her off, saying that Thunder Rosa chooses ODB to be her next opponent. Then we have David Marquez joined by Anastasia Fletcher, the Dawsons, and Tim Storm. Anastasia picks out names from the fishbowl for the NWA television title tournament. Tim Storm versus Nick Aldis. This match will happen next week. Tim says that Mama Storm turned 95 this week. He said that Mama Storm said that he still has something left to prove. He says his body may be a little bit old and his body may be a little broke down, but he is bad and they know it. Next, we have an NWA World's Television Championship Tournament singles match with a 6-minute, 5-second time limit between the Question Mark versus Colt Boom Boom Cabana. Outcome, Colt Cabana goes to the top rope, but Question Mark catches him with the Mongrovian spike for the 1, 2, 3. Your winner, the Question Mark. That was the end of the show. In the next episode, we will have Tim Storm versus Nick Aldis in the NWA television title tournament. And January 24th is the next NWA pay-per-view, Hard Times. We'll talk to you in the next podcast about the latest pro wrestling recaps, but please follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Stable or visit us at WrestlingStable.com for the latest news, updates, and reviews. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling Stable podcast, where you don't join, you're chosen.